My name is Garth Wesson, and my co-host is Jim Prosser. Hi, Jim.
Hey. How are you?
We're also joined today, big thanks to Michael Williams, the captain of the Noorat and District Fire Brigade. I like to make it and district, although we don't ever refer to that usually in day-to-day speak. First thing I'd like to do is launch my screen. That would be a good start. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, hopefully everybody can see that, because I get a could you see that, Jim?
Yep.
Yeah,
good.
No worries. That's fantastic. So I can no longer see you anymore, but Jim will be watching. Now we're going to do a little bit of we're going to do a welcome to country as our first thing. So I'm just going to bring that up. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're gathered. Now I know for the Noorat area, it's Girrawurrung and Jagabwurrung peoples, but of course Noorat was a meeting place for many traditional owners and many Indigenous peoples. So I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and also acknowledge any Indigenous peoples who may be here today with us in our session. So now Jim is going to talk a little bit about a bit of housekeeping. So I'll hand over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Garth. Right, so obviously everybody in the audience can see and hear us, and we obviously would like interaction with the audience tonight. However, we can't see you and we can't hear you, but that doesn't mean you can't communicate with us, because we like you to communicate with us. In fact, we learn things from you when you communicate with us. One way you can do that is through the chat function. You'll see there's a little tab in the middle of the screen there. If you push on the chat, it opens up a box in the right-hand side that you can type comments. You'll see this little box on the bottom there, so you can type comments. So we'll give you a go at just testing the technology, if you like, and just so you know how it works. So we'll just ask a simple question, whereabouts would you be joining us from today? And you can just type your comments if you wish to. It's no obligation to do so. And, then we can see where you're from. And it helps us to be able to tailor the presentation tonight to the needs of the local community there at Noorat. Now, just to let you know, this session's being recorded this evening, but the only part that's really recorded is Garth talking, which is really exciting, and myself talking, which is even more exciting, and the presentation itself. So everybody's had a go there at the chat function. Thank you, everybody. And we can see that they've all joined us in the local region there of Noorat tonight. So that's one way that you can communicate with us, is through the chat function. The other way is through polls that we'll launch throughout the evening. So again, the polls are anonymous. They're optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. And we'll launch a series of questions. You can answer them. We'll collate those results once everybody's got their answers in, and we'll feed the information back to you so you can see what everybody else is thinking. So without any further ado, let's launch the first poll so that you can all get used to the technology again. And it's an introduction poll. There you go. I've launched the poll. How long have you lived in the area? Have you been to a CFA meeting before?
Yeah, now just for those who may not realise it, there's actually 4 questions there. So
that's correct.
Scroll down to answer the additional
questions. Scroll down a bit further. There's a couple more. We'll just give you a moment to answer those questions, just so you're used to the technology. I'll end the poll now, Garth.
Thanks, Jim.
It's the end of the file, and now we'll share the results with everybody. So that's how the technology works. So throughout the session tonight, we will launch polls like that and with a series of questions. There's no obligation to answer them. So now you can see we're sharing the results with you all. You can get an idea of what everybody else is thinking. So I'll stop sharing now and I'll get rid of that poll. So what will you learn tonight? Is the question. First of all, you're going to understand local fire risks. Of course, Australia is the driest continent on the planet, with only 1% of the world's usable water. So that's a risk within itself. But there's also other local risks that are to your local area. What to expect from fire? Some of you may have been through a fire, you know how dangerous it is. How do you know if there is a fire? Now that sounds like a really simple question, but there are complexities to it. Planning and decisions that you make can be life-saving. Surviving if your plans fail. So even though you might have made the plans, if they fail and you get caught out, how can you then still survive is the question we're going to answer tonight. Or what gives you maximum chance of survival? So without any further ado, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the presentation tonight, and I'll hand back to Garth.
Thanks very much, Jim. No, that's great. So understanding your local fire risks. So as Jim said, Australia is a very dry place. Victoria in particular, one of the most bushfire-prone parts of the world. We have grassland, bushland, mountains, farmlands. As you know, Noorat dries very quickly. Being located on and around a volcano as it is, the ground tends to dry very quickly, and you can get very fast running grass fires quite early on in the season. And it can stay dry quite late also, depending on the season. So where are we in Victoria? Well, we know we're in Noorat. So these are the fire danger districts or fire weather districts. So they're the ones that you pay attention to if there's a total fire ban in your area, or if it's the fire danger rating is higher or lower in your area. So for us, obviously in Noorat, there you can see Mortlake there in the middle of southwest, and you're just down a little bit south and east from Mortlake. So you're pretty much bang in the middle of southwest fire danger rating area. So the seasonal outlook. So this is the August seasonal outlook. And it's at the moment predicting increased moisture through spring, which is suggesting that there actually be an increased risk of grass fire in our area. So that's something to be particularly aware of this year, and that's sort of the main risk of for Noorat. Local vegetation, there's pretty much what we're looking at there. You can see the stone walls, the pastures. Now, obviously, if there's a fairly well-eaten paddock, the fire won't be as intense, but it will travel quite quickly across there because the wind can blow the fire very quickly across a paddock of eaten down grass. If it then jumps over your stone wall and gets into that high grass along the roadside, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of that shot, you're going to get quite an intensive fire burning in that, and that's going to make that road pretty much impassable for any kind of normal vehicle. So these are the sort of things you need to take into account. So that's your local grassland. I was actually supposed to hand over to Jim for that, so I'll hand over to Jim for local risks. Sorry, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Garth. No, all good. So yeah, the slides you saw there were typical of your area. You know, really, what I know of the area there, what you see. But what are the local risks? We can see on the slide there, slow-moving vehicles could be a case. And, you know, it's similar with some of the coastal regions where they have a lot of tourists and people are a towing caravan trying to get out. You get stuck with a kind of series of these, and the exit is quite slow, unfortunately. Another risk that you have there also is local vegetation or trees falling across roads, which could block your egress from a location as well. This is why the CFA always recommend leave early, because you don't know what might be thrown up in front of you before the fire gets to where you actually. So that would be the main risks in terms of locality to your area, I would guess. I'll hand back over to Garth, and I think he's going to talk about the local resources there that enable you to be able to fight fire.
Absolutely, and this is where we'll call on Michael's expertise also. So Noorat Brigade has a wonderful total of 2 trucks, if they can find both of them. Apparently one's missing at the moment, but hopefully it'll turn up before summer. I don't know how you lose a big red truck, but there you go. CFA is very capable of a lot of things. Number of dwellings, properties in Noorat and surrounds, 151 according to the 2016 census, and 333 people. So the maths is pretty simple. If we've got 151 dwellings and only 2 trucks, hopefully 2 trucks, even if you get a few people turning up, neighbouring brigades, and they're all coming to help Noorat because nothing else is burning, still going to be a shortage of trucks to supply one for every house. So that's the big takeaway here. Don't expect that you will get a truck at your house. Michael, is there anything you'd like to say on that brigade capacity and your ability to turn out and help the community?
I think the thing to note is in there, there's a number of key locations, those being the schools, the local store, the pub, and the football, and churches for that matter. And yeah, in the of a fire where the town is threatened, those assets will probably be prioritised first.
Yeah. So definitely schools. Yeah. Any phone towers that might be at risk?
There are, but they're very hard to get to.
Oh, right. Hard for the brigade to get to.
Yeah, you got to scale the top of Mount Noorat to get there, and it's not very friendly for trucks. So your closest appliance that would be able to cater for that's probably 25-30 minutes away.
Yeah. No, fair enough. So, as a bit of a question to you, if there's a fire, everyone listening here, if there's a fire, do you think it's realistic to expect a fire truck to come and defend your property? So, just like to make sure you've got a basic understanding of fire behaviour. You've got an awareness of the various risks, reinforcing the need to have a plan and have an awareness that your personal responsibility is yours for your safety and that you're not relying on a fire truck. So, your next section is what to expect from a fire or from fire. Victoria has a lot of fires. We're one of the most fire-prone areas in the world. I just mentioned that a few minutes ago. 2 summers ago, we saw huge fires, multiple parts of the state, most primarily in Gippsland, but also over near Hayward, of course. Fires burnt for quite some weeks over in the Budgebim National Park there. These are, pretty significant images, but unless you've already actually had personal experience, it's actually quite hard to imagine what it'd be like to be actually threatened by a fire. So, look, we're going to... Oh, sorry? No, it's okay. We're actually going to show a couple of animated videos and also a short video of some people describing some experience of fire. So if anyone's feeling like they may be distressed, the first one runs for just under 3 minutes. The second one's about 2.5 minutes, and the third one is just under a minute. So please feel free to turn off your sound, turn away, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Please come back. We've got more to tell you. Important stuff. So let's have a look at this first video. So this, as we know, in grassland, there's a lot of threats to our property. Now, even in grassland, Ember Attack is something that can happen. It is more related to forest, but Ember Attack is still a significant way that houses burn down. So we'll have a little look at Ember Attack first up.
During a bushfire, embers will reach your home long before the flames do. Ember attacks are the most common way that houses catch fire. Embers are burning leaves, twigs and pieces of bark. They help the bushfire spread by starting spot fires ahead of the main fire front. Short distance ember attacks happen when leaves and small pieces of bark are blown from burning trees. The intense shower of sparks that forms fills the air with hot, burning embers, which will land on nearby vegetation and properties. The hot embers can easily land and get into your clothes and burn your skin, eyes and airways. Small fires will start all around you and quickly become uncontrollable. The resulting chaos creates confusion as the fire seems to come from many directions, meaning it will be difficult to make good decisions about your safety. The experience will be physically exhausting and emotionally traumatic. Long-distance ember attack is caused by large bushfires that generate intense heat. As the hot air rises, it forms a column of smoke that sucks in air like a vacuum, increasing the intensity of the fire. The updraft in the column lifts embers, like large pieces of burning ribbon bark, hundreds of metres into the air, where strong winds can carry them many kilometres beyond the fire front. On Black Saturday, embers travelled more than 30 kilometres ahead of the main fire. When these embers land, they often start fires where leaves naturally accumulate, like in gutters, doorways and garden beds. So while you might think you're safe when a bushfire is far away, embers can fall from the sky and land around your home long before you even know there's a fire. But remember, your home isn't the only thing under threat during an ember attack. By the time you realise the danger, it might be too late as escape routes become jammed. Embers can also start fires on roads and block them completely, making late evacuation dangerous or impossible. That's why leaving early, before a fire starts, is always your safest option.
So, that's a little bit of Ember Attack. Now, obviously, Noorat doesn't have the big forests nearby, but there are still trees. There are windbreaks and farms and some trees around Mount Noorat and so forth. So there is still opportunity for embers to blow around on the day of a bad fire and impact your home and also start fires ahead of the main fire front. So really something to be aware of, in protecting your property. Now, another important thing, an important danger to be aware of with bushfires is radiant heat, and going to let Jim have a little bit of a talk about radiant heat, and we've got another video to play.
So yeah, the radiant heat is killer in not the flames. More people perish with the radiant heat. Grass fires, like you would get around Noorat, will generate enough radiant heat to severely injure people. The other radiant heat is it's going to affect your ability to be able to think clearly as well. And another reason why you've got to plan intensively and leave early when you can. So again, this video will be quite graphic and it'll give you the technical details why it's just so dangerous. Thanks, Garth.
Victoria is one of the most bushfire-prone parts of the world. Every summer, bushfires threaten properties and lives. But did you know it's not the flames that kill most bushfire victims? No, it's the radiant heat. Most victims die from the effects of radiant heat long before they're reached by the flames. Radiant heat is what you feel when you sit next to a campfire. If a campfire heats up to 2 kilowatts per square metre, you'll feel that it's too hot and will want to move back from the fire. If you don't, this amount of radiant heat is enough to cause burns and blisters in as little as 40 seconds. At 12 kilowatts, it can cause some materials like dry timber to ignite. A bushfire can reach 100 kilowatts, and the effects can be truly catastrophic. For humans, radiant heat can cause burns from 100 meters away and cause a dangerous increase in body temperature. Radiant heat can cause the rapid onset of heat stroke. Heat stroke damages your brain, meaning you won't be able to concentrate to make good decisions as the fire arrives. Other impacts include severe damage of internal organs and death. There are some things you can do if you're caught in a fire. Cover your skin with long-sleeved natural fibre clothing, like wool. It's also useful to know that radiant heat only travels in straight lines and can't bend around corners. So, sheltering behind or inside solid structures may help protect you. But be aware, radiant heat will travel straight through glass. The best defense against radiant heat is a simple one. If you're not anywhere near a bushfire, its radiant heat can't hurt you. Leaving early is always your safest option.
Right, thanks, Garth. So if we just go on to the next slide, you can see there's 2 pictures, one of a house there. You can see that particular house hasn't been lapped by the flames at all, but the radiant heat was so strong, it simply melted the paint off the walls. And likewise with the sign, again, it hasn't been lapped by the flames, it's not black, it hasn't been burnt off, just the radiant heat has simply been so powerful, it's melted the letters off of the actual sign. So that's what radiant heat will do. And of course, it's the killer for people when it comes to fire. So commonly after bushfires, the CFA interview people about their experience of going through the fire. And you can see some of the comments on the screen there. I'll just give you a second just to have a, so you can see there why the CFA recommend leave early. It's just safe.
Oh, Jim's getting a bit scratchy there. I think I'm not sure. I'm losing him. Look, we have a short video.
Just early.
This video, next video is less than 1 minute. Sorry, Jim, you're just getting a bit scratchy. And you're cutting in and out. So we'll go on to the video. This is goes for only about 50 seconds. So once again, please, if you feel like you might be affected, please turn away, and we'll play it now.
Ten years ago, when all the dams were full and the tanks were full and there was plenty of water, I probably would have stayed. and I would have died.
Nothing went the way we might have anticipated.
Whatever preparations you put into place, you only need something small to go wrong.
You know, in future, I don't think we'd want to put the kids through that sort of trauma, I guess. Yeah, wouldn't put the kids through that again.
If it was my choice, I wouldn't stay again. If we had another day like that, if I had the opportunity to get out, I would go before the fire even got here.
So, what does this mean for you? A fire will be stressful, a traumatic situation that you need to plan for and be prepared for. Exit roads may be blocked. Ember Attack can cause fires to spread quickly and set fire to your home. Radiant heat is the biggest killer and can kill you very quickly from a long distance, and your decision making may be impacted. For all these reasons, leaving early before a fire starts is always the safest option. Now, I think we have another poll, Jim, which is along the lines of, what do you think would impact your ability to make good decisions? Oh, do we have Jill? Ah, yeah, it is. Thank you, Jim. So, possible answers here. What do you think would impact your ability to make good decisions? Stress, rapidly changing situation, things not going to plan, not having enough time, communications breaking down. Now, you can answer as many of these as you think may be correct. We'll give people a few more seconds. Jim, thank you. Okay, let's have a look. Do you want to close that up, Jim? Perfect, thank you. So yes, look, I think people caught on pretty quickly, pretty much all of the above. Stress, absolutely. It would impact your ability to make good decisions. A rapidly changing situation, you might think you might make a good decision and suddenly things change. Things not going to plan. Yeah, something puts a spanner in the works. Not having enough time. You know, there's you think you've got time, and then the fire comes quicker than expected. And communications breaking down. Absolutely, this can happen. Even if things are still working, everyone will be trying to get onto their mobile phones. Towers will be congested. You know, the airwaves will be congested. Landlines might go down. Power might go off. There's a whole lot of things which will actually make communications so much more difficult, apart from the fact that there'll be smoke and everything will go dark. So thank you, Jim. You can stop sharing that now. That's great. So how do you know if a fire started or if one's going to start? So if people would like to put into the chat, we're going to open the chat up now, and tell me something about how you would know if there was a fire in your area. Just give people a little while to pop something in the chat there. Popping in already. Smoke. Yes, smoke's a very good one. App going off. So yes, the Vic Emergency app, that's very good, very reliable source. Birds, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I have heard that. The birds going quiet all of a sudden when there's smoke around, or being extra noisy sometimes. Smell's a good one. So yeah, thank you for that. Some great things. So that would, if there was a fire in your area, you would know. Those things would give you some idea. I'm just making sure I'm not treading on Jim's toes again here. No, not yet. So now the other thing that we have, and this is our fire danger ratings. Now, you've probably seen those driving down the highway. You might see them on the TV news. You might see them on the Vic Emergency app. Someone mentioned that. So these are talking about, you know, the fire danger ratings. So low, high, very high, severe, extreme, code red. So what does the fire danger rating mean? Let's pop another little poll up. And there's a couple of questions in this, I think, in this one. So people would like to have a go at this. Once again, it's anonymous, and it's optional. So if you would like to do it, there's 3 questions in this. So what does the fire danger rating mean? 2 possible answers there. It's an indicator of how likely it is a fire will start, or it is an indicator of how bad a fire would be if one were to start. Question 2, does anyone know how many code red days have happened in this region in the last 5 years? So this is the southwest region we were talking about earlier. And does anyone know how many severe or extreme days have happened in this region in the last 5 years? So if everyone would like to pop some answers in there, that would be great. Give people a few more seconds. We'll give them a minute all up, Jim.
Okay.
Well, sounds like you might be back now, Jim.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep, you're sounding a lot better now.
Okay, good.
That's great. So does it? So oh, that's interesting. We've got some people saying it's an indicator of how likely a fire will start, and some people saying it's an indicator of how bad a fire would be on a particular day. Well, I can tell you it's actually the second one. It's actually an indicator of how bad a fire would be on a particular day. So the fire danger ratings are made up of a whole lot of pieces of information that the Weather Bureau collects. It's based on temperature, it's based on wind speed, it's based on humidity of the air, so how dry the air is. It's also to do with how dry the fuel is. So there's people go out every day and grind up gum leaves and see how much moisture's in them, and that information gets fed back. And how dry the soil is. So how dry deep down, because that actually affects how quickly the grass or the trees dry out on any particular day. If they don't have moisture in the soil, they'll dry out a lot more quickly, and so a fire would be worse on those days. And it also is based on how likely is there will be a change in that fire danger rating area on that day. So they put all those bits of information together and they come up with a beautiful rainbow of colours to tell us what's going on. Now, interestingly, in that poll there, we talked about the severe, extreme and code red days. Now, code red, Black Saturday is our most memorable code red day, of course. Now, interestingly, since then, we have not had a code red day in the southwest region. Many people would think we have. We've had a lot of very bad days, but that was an exceptional day. Scientists predict that we will have one of those approximately every 5 years, but we haven't actually had one in 12 years now since Black Saturday. So hold your breath, keep your fingers crossed, but it probably will happen again. Severe and extreme days. So that was a bit of a trick question because actually none of those answers were right. In actual fact, we generally have somewhere between about 6 and 12 severe days every summer and 1 or 2 extreme days every summer. Last year, there was only, I think, 3 or 4 maybe, because it was a very mild summer of the severes. And I don't know, that we might have had 1 extreme. I'm not 100% sure about that. But they're not regular, they're not every day through summer. they are particularly bad days. And on those days, it's worth considering that on those days, you actually have a different plan for yourself, because those are the days when, if a fire is to take hold. So I've got a few little notes here, actually. On a severe day, you can expect hot, dry, and possibly windy conditions. If a fire starts and takes hold, it may be uncontrollable. On an extreme day, expect extremely hot, dry, and windy conditions. If a fire starts and takes hold, it will be uncontrollable, unpredictable, and fast-moving. Spot fires will start, move quickly, and will come from many directions. Code red, these are the worst conditions for a bushfire or grass fire. Homes are not designed or constructed to withstand fires in these conditions. The safest place to be is away from high-risk bushfire areas on these days. So leaving a high fire risk area. So now Noorat is a very high fire risk area. Hence why we're doing this talk tonight. So leaving a high fire risk area either the night before or early in the day on one of these bad days is your safest option. Do not wait and see if a fire happens. Avoid forested areas, thick bush or long dry grass. Know what your trigger is to leave. Make a decision about when you will leave, where you will go, how you'll get there, when you will return, and what you will do if you cannot leave, because that is always a possibility also. So, sources of information. This is a bit of I think they call them a word splat or something. I can't remember the proper title, but it's a whole lot of places where people get information these days. You know, you might Google it, you might talk to a neighbour, you might listen to local radio, you might be on Facebook, you might hear something at the cafe, at school, on Twitter. There's a whole lot of places where you can pick up information. Some of this will be good information, some of it might be unreliable. Not everything you hear or read is accurate, despite the best intentions of the people giving that information. So, what do you do to get correct information? There are formal sources of information. So these are the ones that we would recommend as being formal sources and reliable sources of information. So local news, ABC radio, local radio, emergency service provider radio stations. There's a Vic Emergency hotline, which is 1-800-226-226. Vic Emergency online web page. So that's a very good source. And a Vic Emergency app for your smart mobile phone. And most of the emergency services, the CFA, VicPol and the SES all have their social media pages, which they update regularly, their Twitter pages, their Facebook pages, where they're updating any incidents of note quite rapidly, and they are a reliable source also. For people who have communication issues, whether they're hard of hearing or speak a different language, there's National Relay Service, which I'm sure anyone who's needs that service will be well aware of. And there's the interpreter service, which anybody can use that if you need to help somebody get information and you're unable to communicate with them. That is a very good resource for all of us to use if we need it. And then there can be emergency alerts. This is a bit of a last ditch effort for us to get information, us, I say, the fire services or emergency services, to get information to a community when things are extremely bad. You may get sent a text message, you may get sent a recorded voice message on your landline telling you about the situation. So then on the Vic Emergency online and the Vic Emergency app, and also on the local news, you'll hear this is an advice message. This is a watch and act message. This is an emergency warning. What do these mean? You hear the whoop whoop whoop, and then this is an emergency warning. So what do these mean? So an advice message means that there is an incident occurring. It is in your area, or it has occurred in your area, and you should actually access more information, and you should monitor conditions. You should be aware of what's happening. It can also be used to notify that actually something's subsided and there's no longer a danger to you, as we're actually coming out of an incident rather than going into an incident, if you like. Watch and act means that there's an emergency developing nearby, and you actually need to take action now to protect yourself and those that you're around you that you look after. It doesn't mean necessarily that you need to evacuate, but you need to take action, whatever that action might be, whatever your plan might be. It's time to enact your plan. An emergency warning means you're in imminent danger and you need to take action immediately. You will be impacted. There have been times when there's been emergency warnings and people haven't been impacted, and they go, "Oh, I was told I'd be impacted." I think it's better that we tell you that you will be impacted and you're not, than we don't tell you and you are. So sometimes that will happen. There won't be any apologies for it. It's actually better that we tell you and nothing happens than we don't tell you and something really bad does. So emergency warnings. There's a couple more warnings. Sometimes the emergency services deem it's actually safe for people to evacuate. And in that case, there will be a prepare to evacuate now message. And that will have quite specific instructions in the case of a fire, which will be telling you which way to evacuate from where. In other words, which roads are open and which roads are going to lead you into danger. So it's important, if you do get an evacuation notice, to take very good notice of what that is saying and to act on that immediately, because there may be a limited window for evacuation. Community information, they are more just a newsletter type information. So if there's been a big fire, like we had the peak fires down around Cobrico, Cobden, so that went on for quite a long time, and so there's information going out to the community about the carbon monoxide levels, about where smoke was, about what roads were closed for a long term. So that's sort of information there. And you can also see on that slide a very good little image of what it might look like on your phone, where the fire is in the top left corner there, where the serious emergency warning section is, where you're going to be impacted, where the watch and act area is the orange bit, and the yellow bit further down is the advice area. Now all of this is really good, but don't necessarily wait for a plan. I'm gonna hand you over to Jim again now, and I'll take over this bit. Jim.
Thanks. So here we've got a typical possible scenario timeline that you could be encountered with. Now, what you've got to remember is the update of this timeline, or the update of the Victoria Emergency App, may not be what you're experiencing outside your front door, because it takes time for the information to get from the fire to be processed. And if you're right next to the fire, of course, it's going to be on you before the emergency app has updated. So you still have to use your common sense and your own sense. So let's say, you can see on the far left-hand side here, fire starts. Now, even though the fire starts, it doesn't immediately get put onto the Victoria Emergency App. It might take 5 or 10 minutes for somebody to ring it in through 000. and then it'll, eventually work its way, maybe in 10 minutes, to an advice warning. Now, as Garth explained earlier, there's a triage of 3 different warnings, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all 3 would be used. So it may be so severe that it goes from advice to a emergency straight away. So as this timeline moves along, the fires continue burning, and if it's got a strong wind behind it, it'll move quite quickly. So you can see here in this particular situation, on this timeline here, it's gone straight through it from an advice to an emergency warning, as I was explaining a moment ago. And likewise, this fire's been burning for the last 20 minutes, and you've got to remember there's Ember Attack that's being thrown ahead of the fire, so this fire could be on you in a short space of time. So, as I explained before, what you're experiencing might be slightly different to what the Victoria Emergency App warning system is showing you. So how do we overcome this? Well, you still got to use your common sense, and you still need to use your own senses to judge the situation. Because the fire will move quite quickly, as we explained in the other slides previously. You need to use your own senses. Look outside your window. If it's an extreme day or a code red day or a severe day, don't just shut your blinds, turn the air conditioner on and say, well, I'm safe in here. You can't do that, because the reality is that a fire might break out. So you need to look outside your window, see, if you see smoke, then go and investigate. If you hear emergency vehicles going past with alarm bells, then, go and investigate. If you can smell smoke, don't ignore it. Go and investigate, because it could be a warning to you, or it could give you extra time that there's a fire and it's imminently upon you. So at this stage, planning and decision making is crucial. So the decisions that you're going to make potentially at this point could be life-saving decisions. So it's very important that you have a clear mindset and a clear plan well before the event actually takes place. So let's have a look at a possible scenario here.
All right, it's me now.
Possible scenario here. It's a typical Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you need to go to work. Now, as you can see on the slide here, it's an extreme day. As you're driving to work, you can see the trees. You can see those trees are moving quite a bit there. There's a severe wind. As you're driving along past these trees, the leaves and little twigs being blown off the trees onto the road. As you're driving along, you can feel the heat through the car window. It's an extreme day. You get to work, and at about lunchtime, you hear other staff members at work talking about a fire that's broken out near your home. So you jump on the Victoria Emergency App, and you can see that it's not far from your house. But you think, oh, I've got enough time to go and get home and maybe grab some things, or take some action. So you jump in your car and you decide to head back home. Thinking you've got enough time.
I'm gonna jump in, Jim, because we're losing half of what you're saying here.
Oh, sorry, Garth.
No, that's quite all right. So yeah, you jump in your car, start heading home to make sure everything's okay. But look, as you get closer to home, oh dear, the road's blocked by police. Wind down the window. They advise you it's not safe to go into the area. Fire's burning. Trees have come down on the road. Find somewhere else to go until the road's reopened. So, ask a few questions. So yes, we're going to launch another poll. Have a think about, what does this mean for you? Jim, if you'd like to launch the poll, please. So, question number 1. Where would you be on your average Wednesday in summer? Work, home, on vacation? Maybe all of the above. Thinking about last summer, would you have been prepared to spend a few nights away from home in an emergency situation like this? Yes? No? Last summer, did you have an emergency kit packed with some clothes, important documents, photographs, medicines, ready to go? So I'll give you a little while to answer those 3 questions. Now remember, it is anonymous. There's no such thing as a silly answer, only silly questions. So there you go. Okay, we'll close that up. Thank you, Jim. So yeah, there was a bit of a mixture. Some lucky ones on vacation. Well, I don't know, every Wednesday, but certainly good luck to you. Quite a lot at work, some at home. That's great. Yeah, it's who knows where you're going to be. Would you have been prepared to spend a few nights away from home? So we got, what's that? It's about 67% no's and 33% yes. So well done. A few people that were ready for having to spend a few nights away. Most of us weren't. And did you have an emergency kit packed? Well, actually, even less had an emergency kit packed. So look, here's something to think about. Yes, this could happen. It is possible. Let's have a look at another hypothetical. Same day, except this time the fire is still away from your property. This time, yeah, you have a look at, you see it's still a little away from your property. The little yellow shaded area on your phone doesn't quite reach your home. So I've got enough time to go home and grab some stuff, yeah? Right? So you drive home, get out of the car, you smell the smoke. It's really hot, it's windy. You check the app again. Still on your screen, still an advice message. You should have enough time. You frantically move about the house, grabbing important things, start running them out to the car. Every now and then check on your phone, see if you're still being told to evacuate. No, nothing. So you've still got time, right? Running through the list in your head. Got the cat box, the dog, food. Check. Photos, yep. Birth certificate. I think, yeah, did I get both? Yes, I got the birth certificates. Oh, this is taking a bit longer than I thought. Okay. Oh, then suddenly you notice little patches of smoke coming up in the garden bed. The pile of leaves you've been meaning to clear up, starting to smoulder. Embers have started falling near your home. You feel that surge of adrenaline pumping through your body. You're out of time. Now what do? Where do you go? Can you still drive out into your street? Is there somewhere safe that you can go to? Do you have to stay and take shelter in the house? Do I grab the garden hose? Try to put out the small fires? These are all decisions you have to make, and that is without taking into consideration other people. What about the kids? Are they at school? Are they with you? Your neighbours, are they okay? Is there someone else that depends on you? Do you have horses? What if the trees come down in the wind? It's now blocking the road. I know this feels like a lot to take in right now, like I'm bombarding you with questions you may not have answers for or haven't even considered, right? And that's without the stress of actually being in a fire. So once again, I'd like you to, in the chat, if you could please, what is one thing you could have done to avoid being in this situation? If you could just pop something in the chat, and we'll have a look at that. Okay. Had a kit packed. Yeah, exactly. That's a very good answer. And we saw in that previous poll, not everyone's got their kits packed. Yeah, maybe not gone back to the home. Maybe yes, maybe stayed away when the fire was coming. That's one thing you could have done. Yes, stayed in town. Any other thoughts? Make a plan. Yeah, no, that's a good one. So make a plan. Very good segue. Thank you. Make a plan. Be prepared. Know what you will do. Think ahead. Make a plan before summer starts. Hence why we're in this wet, windy October. We're talking to you now. Now, I think we have another poll, do we? Jim? Thank you.
I don't think, no, there's no poll.
No, it's not. Okay, no, that's all right. My notes are out of date. Sorry about that. So there are things you can do to make a plan, be prepared. Know what you will do on a bad fire day. Have a plan. What does a bad fire day mean? It means knowing what the fire danger rating is. And if it's severe, extreme, or code red, that is a bad fire day. Stay informed. Use those fire danger ratings to plan ahead. Check with sources like the Vic Emergency app. Make sure your property is prepared, even if you don't plan to be there. If it's prepared, it will help you. It will help the property have more chance of surviving, even if you're not there. We have some brochures like the How to Prepare Your Property and Your Guide to Survival. You will be redirected at the end of this session to our webpage, and you'll be able to download those brochures. Or if you want hard copies, you can actually contact the district office at Colac. We've got the contact details coming up for them in a minute. Alternatively, yes, I just said that, yeah, CFA website, or I'm sure if you talk to Michael, if you see Michael walking down the street, grab him, and he'll direct you in the right area. Now, look, just something to take into consideration at the moment with COVID-19 around. It's worth thinking about how COVID-19 may impact your plans. Obviously, lockdowns are trumped by bushfires. So if you need to leave and you're in a lockdown and because there's a bushfire, you can still leave. However, if your plan is to, on a bad day, go down to Warrnambool and go to the movies because it's a lovely air-conditioned building, they may not be open. So think about that when you're making your plan. Think about what will be available to you in your planning. And also in your kit, extra masks, whatever else you might need, extra hand sanitizer, those sort of things. So consider COVID-19 in this as well, because that won't disappear just because there's a bushfire. So our key messages for this section are factors that impact your decision making. So situational, personal situations and personal capacity. And really think about having a plan. So I'm going to now hand over to Jim. He's going to talk about survival options if your plan fails.
Well, hopefully you can all hear me clearly this time.
You're beautiful and clear now, Jim.
Yeah, so now it's all about survival. If we have all the plans and they've failed and we've been caught out, now it's about survival and personal safety. So first thing we need to do, as we learned earlier with Ember Attack and radiant heat, you need to cover up, because if you lose sight because you haven't got goggles on, because all of the embers and smoke has blown into your eyes, then you're at a decided disadvantage. So you need eye protection, you need a mask, you need a hat on, you need natural fibre clothing that won't burn quickly and won't melt onto your skin and cause you discomfort. You need leather boots, leather gloves, because they're going to give you maximum protection. Runners are no good, they'll just melt. And you always see the idiot out there every time you see a bushfire on the news, don't you, that's out there in his thongs and t-shirt and shorts. I mean, nothing could be worse than that. You know, you need to give yourself maximum protection from radiant heat and also the Ember Attack. So that's how one thing that you can do to protect yourself at this particular point is cover up completely. The other thing that you're going to be confronted with is radiant heat, as we learned earlier. So you need to shelter behind a solid object, whether that would be a brick wall, a house, any object that's solid that the radiant heat can't pass through. Now, just keep in mind, as you learned earlier, the radiant heat will pass through glass, and that's particularly dangerous if you're in a vehicle, and Garth will talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So shelter behind a solid object, because that'll give you maximum protection against radiant heat. Okay. And then you can assess that after that as to whether that particular solid item is on fire or not. The main thing is you protect yourself against radiant heat. So I'll hand back on to Garth now. He's going to talk about some of the other foibles of protection that you can ascertain based on your circumstances.
So look, this picture you may have seen in some of our brochures. It's actually all these little trees are on fire. I didn't realise they were on fire for a long time. I just thought they were autumn leaves or something or other. But actually, they're all on fire. So some of the places, if everything's on fire, where are the safer places to go? So places where there's least fuel is the first thing to think of. Okay, if there's less fuel, there'll be less fire, so there'll be less heat. So open space without trees, short grass, ploughed paddocks would be even better. Irrigated grass, so whether it be a farm paddock that's been irrigated, or whether it's an oval, football oval, footy oval, cricket oval, whatever, cricket pitch. So those places, roadside areas where they've done roadworks and it's a gravel pit on the side of the road where they store their gravel. Roadside layovers for parking, for trucks, those sort of places are great places to well, they're not great. They're the best of the bad bunch if you've got to find somewhere safe. Very large water bodies, large dams, large in-ground swimming pools, not tanks or above ground pools because they can actually boil. But in-ground, large dams, swimming pools. Rivers, we don't have a lot of large rivers around anywhere around here, but I suppose if you're down at Warrnambool, you might be able to jump in the Hopkins. We also have what are called neighbourhood safer places or bushfire places of last resort. These are, in your case, it's the footy ground, showground in town, Noorat. Right next to the fire station, which is a little bit of extra reassurance also. They probably won't be there, but at least it'll feel like it's safer because they're there, because the shed's there. But these aren't places where it's safe. These aren't places where Red Cross will be there with a cup of tea for you. All these are somewhere where there's enough, the vegetation is far enough away that it's assessed that if you hide in your car under a blanket, you probably won't die. So this is not a good option. This is just the least bad option. So please don't make a bushfire place of last resort your first plan. This is the place to go once all your plans have failed. And hopefully you will survive there, but please don't make it your plan. That's important to be aware of. These are places where you might survive if your plans failed. More likely to survive than a lot of other places. So just going to talk a little bit about why we don't travel when there's a fire. So there's a few distressing images maybe coming up here. So if people want to look away, do so. I realise we've gone a little over time. I do apologise for that, and we're just about finished. So, yes, the following content may be distressing. So these are some of the images of what it may be like to be driving through a bushfire. There's some very graphic images on YouTube if you want to see more. If you don't want to see it, then that's fine. I totally understand it. It is quite confronting. Cars are designed to get you from A to B. They're not designed to protect you from bushfire. Being on the road also blocks that road for emergency services. So please, if there is a fire, don't be on the road unless you absolutely have no other option. So look, thank you very much for coming along today. If you're watching this recording, thank you very much for watching the recording. Please take action, make a plan, download some of these resources, write a plan, prepare their property, practice that plan. Sometimes you might have a plan, you think, oh, this will take 5 minutes to load the car. If you actually practice it, you might find it actually takes 25 minutes. That's 20 minutes you might not have. You might have to modify your plan. So important to practice that plan, try it out, make sure it actually works. We do have one last poll, just to get a bit of feedback on how we went tonight. So we just launched that one. Thanks, Jim. No worries. So did the meeting give you a better understanding of bushfire risk in your local area? Have a yes or a no, or confirmed what I already knew? And number 2, would you recommend this program to family, friends or neighbours that live in a fire-prone area? Yes or no? So quite a simple couple of questions there. We'll give you another 10 seconds. Okay, great. Thanks, Jim. We can close that one off now. So, thank you very much for that. Look, did a better understand? Yes, most people thought it would gave them a better understanding, and everybody said they would recommend the program. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much for coming along. I will just pop up some further details here. So your local CFA office is the South West Region District 6 office in Colac at 115 Bromfield Street in Colac. Their phone number, if you want to give them a call, 5232 5600 during business hours, of course. Or of course, go to your local, one of your local brigade members and ask them for some information, advice, or get them to direct you where you can get further information. Thank you very much for coming. Is there anything you would like to add, Michael, as a last bit of anything?
No, I think you've pretty well covered everything. Thanks, Garth.
No worries, great. Thank you very much for coming along, Michael. Thank you, Jim, for
Thank you.
And just a last thing there, if anyone is
Coming, Michael.
If anyone is affected by, has been affected by anything of this that has been presented here tonight, there is support available. Please talk to someone close to you who cares about you. Contact Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636 or contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Now look, we'll stay online for a couple extra minutes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll hang on for a little while longer. Thank you very much again for